Hello, my name is Joe, and welcome to Matching Brackets. Today we're kicking off a brand new series called Behind the Distro. In future episodes, we'll explore Linux distributions like Linux Mint, Debian, and Fedora, and many others to learn what makes each one unique. But before we can understand the distros, we need to understand something that they all have in common. They're all free and open source software. What does this really mean, and why does it matter? And why has it led to thousands of Linux distributions and applications? So if you're in the mood to learn a little Linux, let's get started. Part 1. I don't think it means what you think it means. Most people think they already know what free and open source means, but in this case you're missing out if you take the words at their face value. Let me explain. Free. Yes, the software is free for you to use at no charge. A lot of free and open source software is made by volunteer developers who write code simply because they're passionate about a particular project. So if you use free and open source software, it's always nice if you can make a financial donation to the project or devote some of your time and skills. So yeah, there's free as in terms of cost, but there's also freedom. You're free to use this software on one computer. You're free to use this software in a business setting and install it on multiple computers without having to buy extra licenses. You're free to use this software as you see fit. If you wanted to, you could rebrand the software to match your corporate identity. You're entirely free to do so. Now for open source, with the software being open source, this means that anyone can look at the original source code, the code that someone wrote to make the app happen. You can change it, modify it, repackage it, repurpose it, and use it as long as the software remains free and open source. So now let's take this full circle and explain what proprietary software is. The opposite of free and open source software is called proprietary software. With proprietary software, the software is not free. You have to buy it, either as a one-time purchase or as a monthly or a yearly subscription. And you don't have access to the original source code. That's not available for anybody to see. Linux is free and open source software, and Windows and Mac OS are proprietary software. Here, I'm not suggesting that one is better than the other, simply that there are two different ways to provide software to users. Once you understand how free and open software works, the Linux ecosystem starts to make a lot more sense. Part 2. Open source means you can see how it works. As we said before, open source means that you can look at the software source code, see how it works, change it, and share it with others, as long as it remains open source. Think about it like a recipe. Coca-Cola doesn't allow anyone to use their Coke recipe, and for good reason. They don't want anyone to be able to make their own Coke at home, so they keep that recipe a well-guarded secret. But your grandmother's chocolate chip cookie recipe, on the other hand, isn't a well-guarded secret. She would be honored if she could live forever by letting her descendants be able to make her chocolate chip cookie recipe. In fact, you might even put her name on the recipe and call it Grandma May's chocolate chip cookie recipe. Coca-Cola's recipe is like proprietary software. Only Coca-Cola knows what's in the Coke recipe, and no one else can see the recipe. Grandma May's chocolate chip cookie recipe is similar to free and open source software. Anyone in the family can see the recipe, change the recipe, add ingredients, and share the recipe with whomever they'd like. We can all enjoy Coca-Cola and homemade chocolate chip cookies just like we can enjoy proprietary and free and open source software. Part 3. Why free and open source matters. Security. When the source code is open, anyone can inspect it. That doesn't automatically make software secure, but it means security researchers, developers, and even hobbyists can look for bugs and vulnerabilities instead of relying on one company to find them. Think of it like having thousands of mechanics who are allowed to inspect the engine instead of only the manufacturer. Transparency. Open source lets you see how the software works. Most of us will never read the code ourselves, and that's okay. The important part is that someone can. Independent developers and organizations can verify what the software is doing. With proprietary software, you're placing your trust in the company because you can't independently inspect the code. Trust. Trust isn't something a company can demand, it's something it earns. With open source, trust comes from openness. If a project says it respects your privacy or works a certain way, other people can verify those claims. That doesn't mean that every open source project is trustworthy, but openness makes verification possible. Longevity. This is one of my favorite points because it shows the benefits of free and open source software. If a company decides to discontinue a proprietary product, users often have no choice but to move on. With an open source project, if the original developers stop working on it, someone else can continue the project, provided there's enough interest in people willing to do the work. Case in point, there was a popular Office suite software that Apple had called AppleWorks. AppleWorks was beloved by millions of Mac users, until one day Apple decided to discontinue AppleWorks in favor of their iWorks suite, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. This left a lot of Apple users with AppleWorks documents that they could no longer access anymore because the parent program was discontinued. Open source to the rescue, because LibreOffice was able to resurrect those old AppleWorks documents into something that could at least be accessed and brought to a format that was supported. Community. This is probably the biggest difference. Open source isn't just about code. It's about people writing documentation, people translating software, people answering questions on forums, people reporting and fixing bugs, people designing icons, people creating tutorials, people making websites. Everyone can contribute in different ways, even you. The software improves because a community forms around it. None of these things automatically make open source better. There are fantastic proprietary applications and fantastic open source applications. But these ideas, security, transparency, trust, longevity, and community, help explain why millions of people choose to build software this way. It seems like more of a grassrooted communal effort. Part 4, it's not just distros. Open source doesn't stop with just software. Hardware. Yes, hardware can be free and open source. People publish the schematics, the PC board designs, and the documentation so anyone can build or improve on the hardware. 3D printing. Thousands of people freely share their printing designs. Need a knob for your dishwasher? Download it, modify it, print it, share it, install it on your dishwasher. encyclopedias. You're probably already familiar with Wikipedia. Yes, Wikipedia is free and open source. But like free and open source software, you might have noticed that they sometimes ask for donations to keep the project going. Maps. GPS maps don't all use the same app data. There is a free and open source online map where you can get involved and make detailed maps about your area. It's called OpenStreetMap, and anyone can contribute. Apps. For the most part, all of the apps on Linux are all free and open source software, free for you to download, change, modify, improve, and share. And there are many other examples. But the point is, free and open source is really about sharing knowledge. Part 5. Why are there so many Linux distributions? And now we answer the ultimate question. This is a question that every new Linux user asks. Why are there so many Linux distributions? And now that you've watched this video, I think you can begin to figure out why on your own. Because of the nature of free and open source software, this allows developers to create their own Linux distributions. Every Linux distribution exists because someone saw a problem and wanted to solve it. Because Linux is free and open source software, this means that literally anyone, that's right, even you, can make your own Linux distribution. Linux Mint's goal is to produce a modern, elegant, comfortable operating system, which is both powerful and easy to use. These are words directly from their website. Debian's goal is to create a usable, completely for free, and highly stable operating system, and I think they're meeting that goal very well. Fedora's goal is to advance the free and open source ecosystem by building innovative, user-focused operating system. Then some distros have specific goals, like Parrot OS is made for cybersecurity, Tails OS is made for extreme privacy, Steam OS is made for gaming. The sheer number of Linux distros available might scare people new to Linux, because what are they used to? There's only one version of Mac OS. There's 2, maybe 3 versions of Windows if you include the S version. Now that we understand what free and open source actually means, we can begin to appreciate why so many people choose to build software this way. Free and open source isn't about saying one way of building software is better than another. It's about giving people another choice. A choice to learn, a choice to contribute, a choice to modify, and a choice to share, and perhaps most importantly, a choice to use software that is built by a community of people working towards a common goal. That's what makes Linux so fascinating. Now that we understand what free and open source actually means, let's start meeting the projects that make this world possible. And there's no better place than to start with than Linux Mint. So keep an eye out for the next episode of Behind the Distro, where we'll take a closer look at one of the most popular Linux distributions in the world and discover why so many people recommend it to new Linux users. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Behind the Distro and that it helped make free and open source software a little less mysterious. If it did, I'd really appreciate your like. I love seeing your comments. And if you'd like to see more Linux content like this from Matching Brackets, I'd love to see your subscription. And please don't forget to click on the notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is released. But that's going to be all from me for today. Until next time, take care.